Hello again! Today I am here experimenting with a new type of series as suggested by Bardock, the seemingly evergreen field of Dragon Ball what-ifs. Despite my recent distance with the series, I do still hold a lot of fondness for the original Dragon Ball manga, anime, and to a lesser extent Z despite having seen it first, and this is an idea I'd tinkered with on and off for years now. Also, to anyone jumping down to the comment sections to talk about Yamcha cheating on Bulma, I would like to direct your attention to a video by Mr. Fusion that covers this. It is pinned in the comments. But to give you a quick summary, Yamcha is introduced as a romantic whose dream is to get married. Throughout the manga, Yamcha never exhibits any signs of wandering or interest in women besides Bulma. Bulma and Yamcha's VAs were even flabbergasted by this decision of Toriyama's to suddenly characterize him as a cheater. When Bulma is mad at him, it's covered both by her and other characters as being angry he got attention from women, not that he actually did anything. Toriyama even later goes on to claim Yamcha never got over his fear of women, which further contradicts these claims. Basically, Yamcha got character assassinated because Super Saiyan Cell, and Toriyama didn't want Bulma to look like the bad guy for ditching Yamcha for a child murderer. I must also make it clear though that while I will be treating this as a simple what-if storyline, I'm not going to be leashing myself to GT or Super, or the presumed world-building facts such as inherent limits to a character's growth. This is just for fun. And finally, before we begin, I would like to thank my wonderful patrons for making episodes like this possible. Links below. Now, with all that in mind, let's see what happens when Yamcha accidentally slips into Goku's role as main character thanks to luck of the draw. We arrive at the finals of the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai to see who is the strongest beneath the heavens. Lots are drawn and destinies are about to be made. Fight 1, Yamcha vs Giran. Fight 2, Jackie Chun vs Lanfan. Fight 3, Goku vs Bacterian. Fight 4, Krillin vs Nam. A nervous hush falls over the crowd as the first match is laid out. The up-and-coming Yamcha against Giran, a monster man well known for his brutality in combat. Even Bulma seems fearful for her boyfriend's chances. Yamcha, however, keeps his cool. An avid scholar of martial arts, he has frequently expressed knowledge of lore surrounding his profession, from powerful figures and legendary weapons to deadly techniques.
Can't escape from crossing fate! Fight!
He knows well of Giran's bungee gum and intends to use his greatest speed to deny his foe the chance to bind him, becoming a blur of howling winds and vicious strikes that force Giran into the sky just to avoid being launched out of the arena. This strategy earns the ire of the crowd, forcing Giran to ground and the match to pause to justify his use of wings. Unfortunately for Yamcha, this fits the bulky fighter's needs perfectly. For the moment his use of wings is accepted and the match is about to begin again, he unleashes his bungee gum on the young warrior. Yamcha half suspected an ambush, so only his leg has found itself bound by the powerful substance, but it still denied him the chance to even run. Giran descends on his immobile foe, throwing Yamcha against the wall and into the ground, wanting to make him surrender for the hell of it, but as he hoists the man up by a seemingly limp arm, he is surprised to see a smirk on the bandit's face. Yamcha swings his entire body in Giran's grip, gathering momentum and crashing his leg against the lizard's skull, shattering the bungee gum and rendering Giran unconscious to the cheers of the crowd. With this match done, the second is called. Yamcha, Goku and Krillin speculate as to Jackie Chun's nature and skills, and more his personality as he leers over Lanfan. His overconfidence and lust would prove the master martial artist's undoing as she lured him too close to the edge of the arena, blinded him with her top, and knocked him out of bounds by a surprisingly powerful palm-heated strike. Hitting the ground before he can regain his balance, Roshi returns to his senses, a feeling of crushing guilt falling over him, fear that now he will fail to guide his students on the right path, and questioning if he ever could have given his own defeat. Goku is dreading his fight in a way he's never dreaded a fight before, because the sheer stench of Bacterian is painfully distracting to others, but nearly overwhelming to his heightened senses. This renders him dizzy and confused. The longer he tries to fight, the return of his tail is nearly a second win, but a lucky blow from Bacterian reveals his weakness, and with it, he sends Goku hurtling out of the arena. Goku is disappointed, but as this was mostly for fun, he simply resolves to plug his nose next tournament. Krillin vs. Nam is swift but brutal. The younger fighter is only a step behind Goku in strength and speed, but he lacks his friend's raw durability and confidence. Thus, he steadily grows nervous when pitted against such an intense adversary, especially with Goku's defeat wearing on his mind. The match ultimately comes to an end when Nam lures Krillin into an aerial duel and unleashes his secret technique, rendering the boy unconscious for the next half an hour. Moving into the semi-finals, Yamcha is terrified to find himself up against Lan Fan, thanks to his not entirely conquered fear of women and ingrained chivalry. The latter was seen in the Pilaf saga when Bulma was captured. All Diablo Desert denizens deemed blowing a kiss at her to be the height of impropriety, making him a poor match for her strategies and strength. Ultimately, it is only a combination of pulling his bandana around his eyes and Bulma countering Lan Fan's theatrics with her own that allows Yamcha to power through and defeat her without losing the audience support or his own head. Nam and Bacterian's battle is painfully swift, with the former simply designed to put tissue paper nose plugs in before the fight, suppressing his foe's stench enough to quickly overwhelm him. With the final round in place, the mysterious Jackie Chun makes a brief return to inform Nam that water in the city is free, and with his gifted capsules, he can take all that he needs. This allows him to enter the final fight without a heavy heart, and allows him to simply enjoy the challenge.
Can't escape from crossing fate! Fight!
The match itself quickly becomes a test of skill and strategy. Nam's slightly greater strength put to the test against Yamcha's Wolf-Fang Fist enhanced speed, forcing the pair to weave around the other, well aware one well-placed blow could end the fight. Sensing he is slowly losing out to the other man's stamina, Yamcha takes a great risk and lures Nam into the sky, practically goading him into his finishing move. But when Nam takes the bait, Yamcha uses his Wolf-Fang Fist to unleash a burst of ki-enhanced air, launching himself downwards, letting him touch the ground well ahead of Nam and turning his foe's attack into an ambush, launching the man out of the arena and securing the win. Shaking hands, the martial artists part ways with mutual respect and the promise of a rematch, allowing Yamcha the chance to turn around, face the crowd, and drink in his victory, embraced by gleeful Bulma and Puar, who are closely followed by Goku. Naturally, Yamcha invites everyone to their hotel with the promise of a full-course meal, ideally before the moon is out, which isn't suspicious at all. Despite the excited atmosphere, Puar and Bulma are surprised to see Yamcha slinking off the first chance he gets. When pressed, he reveals that he does not feel he deserves to have won. Jackie Chun only lost due to carelessness, and Goku due to a poor matchup, and even his victory over Nam feels unearned in his mind. Bulma is quick to try and snap him out of it, arguing his victory is genuine because he won, and is surprisingly endorsed by Roshi, who sits them all down for a talk. Roshi is quick to draw all the fighters' attention to the reality that there will always be someone stronger, or faster, or more skilled than you, or if not that, then perhaps with a weapon or secret technique, or even just smart enough to pick holes or weaknesses in someone's style. Martial arts is the pursuit of perfection, but that is just an idea, a destination with an endless road, and neither their victories nor their defeats are worth less, provided they fought with honor and all they had. The martial artists resolve themselves to continue their training, but as the younger fighters prepare for bed, Roshi takes Yamcha aside and informs him that if he's still unsure he earned his title, then the only thing to do is successfully defend it, and if he wants to do that, he should head east and seek out the legendary Tower of Korin. Bulma is less than thrilled as she just got Yamcha back from his training trip, and what's more, several companies already called her offering Yamcha sponsorship deals. Puar quickly intervenes, highlighting that this would mean Yamcha becoming eye candy for thousands of women who aren't Bulma. Suffice to say, that makes her wholeheartedly agree with the idea of a training trip, provided she can come along. She was getting bored with school anyway. Thus, after a good night's rest, Yamcha, Bulma and Puar set off east, and thus the Red Ribbon Army saga is set to begin. But before we begin, there's some more house cleaning I need to do. Namely, acknowledging that Goku did not spend an entire year at Roshi's, and thus the Dragon Balls should not be active by the end of the tournament, implying that Goku either flew around aimlessly for several months waiting for the radar to activate, or stayed at Kami House, or went home. Within the context of this timeline, he stayed at Kame House, training with a much more serious-minded Roshi as he awaited the radar springing back to life, and remained blissfully unaware of the old master's many comedic and failed attempts to remove his tail. Meanwhile, Yamcha and Bulma find the legendary Tower of Korin and Yamcha begins his ascent, Puar trailing after him before being forced to ride shotgun on his shoulder. On the second day, Yamcha is already debating climbing back down and trying again when the pair are surprised to hear the sound of a chopper approaching, but it turns out to be Bulma on a propeller-equipped seat and engine, having gotten bored of waiting. Unfortunately, this is when the engine gives out, forcing Yamcha to nearly fall off the tower to pull her into his arms and begin a mighty struggle back down, with his girlfriend and Puar hanging off him all the while. He makes it most of the way before his foot slips off near the bottom, only a combination of his desperate scrambling against the tower, Puar's levitation, and the surprise intervention of a local man spare them some serious injury. The local man reveals himself to be Bora, and having come to complain about Bulma's flying machine crashing near his home, and after thank yous and apologies are offered, he commends their efforts and reveals his own failed bid to climb the tower. Yamcha asks to become Bora's sparring partner, feeling that if he can overcome the man, then he may be able to overcome the tower too. Bora agrees, provided they assist him and his son in their duties, and thus begins a brief period of respite for all, that lasts about 3 months.
Many months later.
With the Dragon Ball's return, Goku sets off on his journey, but not before being reminded by Roshi of how looking at the moon could summon the beast down upon him and others, thus to never look at the moon. Goku agrees and sets off on his journey, with every intent of following his teacher's advice. Unfortunately, he is not the only one searching for the Dragon Balls. After losing Kintoan in his altercation with Silver, Goku is left wandering the land to find the next ball, unaware that Colonel is stalking him. In trying to steal Goku's radar and Dragon Ball as he slept, Silver accidentally wakes the boy up under the full moon, and is barely able to send off a recording to his general before being vaporized. The knowledge of a super powerful martial artist stealing one of the Dragon Balls, also being able to turn to some kind of rampaging monster, is bad enough, but the total decimation of Colonel Yellow's outpost just adds more fuel to the fire. We cut back to a few days earlier, with Bulma making a trip home from the tower, only to be accosted by Red Ribbon soldiers. She manages to get them to slip with Puar's help and her souped up engine and races back, telling Yamcha and Bora of their arrival. Bora refuses to let this stand, and Yamcha was unwilling to let his sparring partner go it alone, and so with Puar acting as forward scout, the pair found the Red Ribbon's camp and launched a nighttime assault. The battle was actually much more one-sided than the pair expected, and the next morning Bulma casually cracks the Red Ribbon code, discovering their hunt for the Dragon Balls, forcing her to make a new radar from the Red Ribbon's wreckage. After it was located, Yamcha agreed to take it far away as a favour to Bora and Upa, while asking Bulma to track down Goku and tell him of the danger, causing the group to split. After his initial success, Yamcha cannot resist the prospect of facing down more Red Ribbon forces, and so finds himself and Puar seeking out Muscle Tower, arguing that it would be bad for them if the army got the orbs anyway. However, the pair's jovial mood is undercut by the forced labour camp made of Penguin Village. Yamcha quickly knocks out a soldier and steals his uniform, using it to sneak into the base, with Puar going ahead as a forward scout in the form of a fly. They make it through the first several layers, but Yamcha's suspicious behaviour is caught by the ninja master Murasaki, who calls on the Red Ribbon forces to destroy the interloper. As Yamcha begins fighting off waves and waves of soldiers, the shinobi tries to launch a stealth attack but is interceded by Puar, which leads to a humorous standoff where the shapeshifter uses his powers to pull off ninja tricks better than Murasaki and his brothers can. This distracts Murasaki long enough for Yamcha to win the fight and knock all 7 of them out. This causes Silver to unleash Android 8, however he refuses to fight upon learning the pair's goals, simply handing them the Dragon Ball. Silver's threat to detonate him fall on deaf ears, as any explosion large enough to kill them would also topple the tower, killing Silver and possibly destroy the Dragon Ball. Thus, 8 leads them through the maze, Yamcha easily defeats the monster by freezing it, and when they come across Colonel Silver, who is holding the mayor hostage, demanding the mayor's life, his plan doesn't hold up well when placed against a pair of desert bandits. Yamcha uses Silver's shock as the chance to disarm him, knocking Silver out, handing the Red Ribbon soldiers and Muscle Tower over to the people before leaving, with 8 staying behind to help the village recover. As this was happening, Bulma was able to track down Goku amidst his search for the Dragon Ball, and together they linked up with Roshi, Krillin, Oolong and Lunch to have an exciting side adventure exploring a pirate cave. However, as they returned to Kame House, they were ambushed by soldiers of General Blue, and while they made for poor fighters, they were fine distractions, allowing the General to bind everyone with his psychic powers. He kidnaps both Goku and Bulma, having been ordered to capture the former, and assuming the latter is proof Capsule Corp is behind their recent troubles. He opens fire on the house before escaping, and while everyone survives, the island is in flames, and with it their capture vehicles, forcing them to ride turtles to the mainland. Despite his recent success, General Blue would quickly meet with problems as Yamcha, intending to convene with his girlfriend and friends, intercepted his vehicle, assuming they were all gathered there with the Dragon Balls. This leads to an intense aerial shootout, in which Blue does manage to damage Yamcha's ride and destroy his Dragon Radar, but is forced to throw Bulma out as a distraction when Yamcha boards him. This provides General Blue time to return to base, where he hands an unconscious Goku off to a mysterious doctor for study and gives his commander the Dragon Radar and Dragon Balls. General Blue is not penalized, but is kept at the base to help contain Goku, while Tao is sent out to retrieve the balls instead.